Moi dudes and dudettes, Timo Varakas here and welcome back to a new video. If you don't know what moi means, moi is hello in Finnish. It's always great to learn something new, especially language-wise. But today is a special video because I am editing your photos. Well, not your photos per se, but people who submitted their photos onto this video. A while back, I put this Instagram story out where I was asking for raw photos for this video, and people sent me their photos and I got a bunch load and I picked 6 of them that I'm gonna edit. Now, every time I show you a picture, there will be social media accounts showing up here somewhere, and you can go check these people out. They're awesome photographers, they're awesome content creators, and I'm gonna link them down below too if you missed them. So I picked 6 photos, these 6 photos right here that I'm showing you. And let's start straight off with the first one. The first picture is from a dear friend of mine, Evelyn Barskey, EB or E for short. And people who sent me these photos sent an email, so I'm gonna read it out loud for you guys. Now, and what Evelyn wrote me was, "Hey Timo, it's E. This shot was taken at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, one of my favorite places to hike near where I live. It's such a beautiful place to get out and enjoy the beauty of nature. Even though these steps are man-made, they still have a sense of being carved out by nature. The way they lead up and around the corner into the unknown just screams adventure. I know you loved the summertime edit I did on this when I posted it on Instagram, so I would love to see yours." Definitely EB, let's start to work on it. So first I'm just gonna crop it and I'm gonna straighten it out a little bit because I see these 2 stairs here that feel like they're gonna be the way I want the photo to be. So let's just put down the contrast, then the highlights, then the shadows a little bit up, the whites down, the backs down. Actually, let's put the shadows down. Then clarity and some dehaze, some vibrance, and the saturation a little bit down to put down those greens. Then to the hue. What I'm gonna do here is that I want the ground to pop up a little bit. I love these kind of orangey tones when it comes to gravel and stuff. And it is a really green photo, so I think it needs something a little bit more colorish, so I'm gonna pop in some oranges. I'm just gonna adjust the hue that the oranges start showing up, and then I'm gonna put in some saturation to the red and orange and just tone down everything else. And I think that this is starting actually to look pretty good. You can twink with the luminance and stuff if you want to, but I think that this is pretty good right here. We can actually try a little bit with the blue, what it looks like in the sky, and let's just put down the overall saturation a little bit, and I think that's it. That's a pretty good looking photo right there. Now, next photo is a food photo from Shivam Thombare. Thombare? Don't kill me because I'm pronouncing it probably really wrong, but hopefully I got something right out of it. "Hey Timo, I'm Shivam, I'm 17 and I'm a cinematographer / student and also a part-time freelancer as an animator. I also love to shoot moody shots. My biggest inspiration is Peter McKinnon and obviously many more. I've been into photography since 2 years and product photography since almost more than a year now. And you're amazing. I've seen your work. It's been long time we know each other through Instagram." That's pretty true. Shivan's been following me for a while now and I've been following him back. I love his work, what he does on product photography, so go check him out. He does pretty cool looking photos. I mean, with Photoshop and stuff. I think they're from Photoshop, but all kinds of floating stickers and stuff. Just go check him out. Here's a shot from my last trip where I went to Aquarius Resort, where I tried to shoot some food shots for the first time. I've never shot food before, but thought of experimenting. Haha. Now, when going to food shots, you want to keep the food to look as natural as possible because people tend to see that it is not real if it's overly edited, and it's not gonna look good. I really like that food just looks like food but with a little bit of oomph. So sorry there. So let's get on to it. I'm gonna crop it down a little bit. I want to just a little bit crop it down, not much, but just a little bit to highlight the subject on the middle, those green leaves and stuff. And I'm just gonna add some contrast. That's almost what you need usually on this. Put down the highlights, put down the exposure a little bit, put down the shadows a little bit, maybe the whites, maybe the blacks. Let's see, pump up the blacks. Yeah, actually that looks much better. And then put in some vibrance and put down the saturation because the yellow actually isn't looking that good. So pump down the saturation or put down the saturation a little bit, and that's it. I'm loving how it looks right now. So it doesn't need to be that much. Food photos, food itself does a lot. And let's just go and put in some vignetting, and yeah, that is looking really good. That is looking good, and this is an awesome photo. There's not much to do with it, so just bring out some details, bring down the exposure, the highlights, and it looks good. Now the third photo is from Andreas Sippus. And Andreas Sippus is an awesome photographer and an awesome content creator, has awesome stuff all over social media, YouTube and Instagram, so go check him out. And so what Andreas wrote me was, "Hey there, thanks for doing this challenge. It'll be interesting what you make out of it. The picture is of course staged just on my table, but in my opinion there's plenty of room to edit it to your liking, which is why I'd love to see your style of editing from it. Cheers, Andreas." So EDC, product photography, this is, I am loving this. This is what I feel like I'm good at. So first off, it's really lighted, so I'm gonna put down the exposure just a little bit. Then I'm gonna put up the contrast, put down the highlights, put down the shadows. And then I'm gonna go give it some clarity, some dehaze. I'm gonna pump up the vibrance. That's looking good. Maybe just a little bit of saturation, put down the saturation a little bit. And then on to the colors. Now what I love about these colors is the wooden look that it has. So you have actually a lot of space to play with oranges here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the orange just pop out a little bit more, make the yellow to the orange, put the hue of yellow to orange. And then I'm gonna go to the luminance, just make the scarf pop out, and then maybe a little bit of yellow to make the field notes pop out a little bit. And then I'm gonna go to the curves. I'm gonna make that J curve that I've been talking about in my previous videos. Just a slight J curve like that. And we've got a contrasty, nice little product photography photo. Man, I'm actually loving that martini knife there. And then there's this pocket light. So on the upper right corner, there are a lot of highlights still. And it feels like it's putting down that pocket knife. So I'm gonna take out the linear gradient, put it out down from that right upper corner, and put down the exposure, put down the shadows. Let's just adjust it a little bit, put down those shadows. Now it's starting to look like what I really love. And then I'm gonna go and add a new mask. I'm gonna add in a radial gradient, and I'm gonna make that light from the pocket light, or what I can't remember what's it called, but yeah, pocket light. I'm gonna make that light pop out a little bit just to make it look like it's shining out of it, and then put in some vignetting, just a little bit of vignetting, and that is looking good. That is looking good. The browns, the light, everything. I'm loving this photo. This is good photo. So the next photo, the fourth photo, is from Haris Vatristas. Hi there, I'm Harry from Greece. I work as a head barista at a cafe, and I also train baristas at local educational center in my hometown of Trikala, Thessaly. Well, I know who I'm gonna call when I go to Greece. God damn it, barista, coffee, I'm gonna live at that cafe. I'm gonna live at your place. I never had anything to do with photography until the quarantine of March 2020, when I had so much time in my hands and realized that taking photos and editing them is something that I enjoyed spending time doing. So I got myself a mirrorless camera and started shooting. In this photo you can see the waterfall in my father's home village of Paliokaria in Thessaly, Greece. This waterfall is something of a landmark, attracting visitors from all across the country. The bridge in the photo used to be the only route connecting Thessaly with Epirus back in the day and was the main way of merchants to make a living back then. That's it from me today. Have a good time editing, my friend. Okay, so first of all, this photo right here, it is pretty blown out. It has a lot of highlights, a lot of exposure. Of course, it is a really nice long exposure photo. I highly suggest using ND filters or VNDs when you're doing these so they don't blow out this much. But it is a RAW, so everything is really editable here, so no worries there. But it's always nice to take a photo that is a little bit underexposed so you don't lose things in highlights such as clouds and stuff like that. Usually the sky just blows out and it's really hard to edit it afterwards. Sometimes you get lucky in the editing room and you realize that everything goes well, but sometimes you don't. So first of all, like I said, it's really lit up, so I'm gonna put down the exposure a lot, and I mean a lot, because I want the highlights to go away. I don't want the sky to pop out that much. I'm gonna pump up the shadows a little bit, pump up the black so it doesn't seem so moody of a photo, pump up the clarity, pump up the dehaze, put in some vibrance, a lot of vibrance, put in some saturation, and then I'm gonna go and play with the hues. First of all, I want those oranges yet again, and not that much greens, so make it a little bit yellow, and then just pump down the reds, pump down the oranges, the yellows, the greens. Everything can be a little bit under saturated here because they pop up too much. And then I'm gonna put in some whites because I want those points where the water hits the water on the waterfall just to pop out a little bit. So next I'm gonna take this photo to Photoshop because there is one little detail that just is really distracting here. So right click on the photo, edit in Photoshop, boom, we're in Photoshop, zoom in, there is that little detail that is distracting me. Change the size of the spot removal tool, try to just delete that blue piece of plastic from down there. Let's see what kind of job this does. Then press Ctrl 0 to zoom out to see what it looks like. It's not distracting anymore. Ctrl W to close and save. Yes, and it teleports back to Lightroom. So the fifth photo is from Matti. We're gonna call him Matti because everybody knows Matti Hapoyan, Matti, and it's the same name. So Matti, it's easier for foreigners to say Matti. And what Matti wrote me was, "Hi everyone, I'm Matti, a 22-year-old photographer from Oulu, Finland. I've been photographing less than 2 years now and I've been loving it. I do all kinds of photography, but I'm mostly known for photos of camera gear and photographer lifestyle photos. I also do a lot of teaching related to photography on my IG account, and that's something that I kind of want to bring here too, in the form of this raw photo." That's good because that means I don't have to do it. I'm sure we all have tried to take photos of bright things, lanterns, candles, stuff like that, in the dark of those amazing moody images. But when you take that shot, it's just a mess. Either the light is just completely blown out or the surroundings are just black. Why is this? This is because of dynamic range. Your eyes have much higher dynamic range than your camera, and that's why your eyes can see more detail in the darker areas as well as in the brighter areas at the same time. So what does this mean in practice? You have to lower the contrast. If you go to take a photo of that lantern in the dark, there is a huge contrast between light and dark. Rather than doing it like that, try to go shoot the shot when it's cloudy and there is still a fair amount of soft light. Then you get this really flat image with little contrast. It kinda looks bad as a raw file, but now you have the details in the darker areas as well as in the brightest areas of the photo. This opens a world of possibilities to the editing process where you can really make those dramatic changes to make it look like you shot it midnight. With that said, it's time to put Timo to work. Hope you're having a fun one with this one. Definitely am. And I'm definitely having a fun one with this, with your photo, because you are right. When you're taking a photo outside of a lantern or a candle, try to do it on daytime and try to take it on an overcast day. It's really an overcast day right now. Maybe I should go take a photo of a candle. Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the lantern. So I'm gonna make it a moody photo. Definitely a moody photo, because I love candlelight. I love bringing out those lights out and making it look kind of dreamlike or sort of like this mysterious kind of light or place. So first of all, we're gonna bring down the exposure. Definitely gonna bring down the exposure because we want to darken it up really good. Then we're gonna bring down the shadows a little bit, bring down the whites a little bit, bring down the blacks a little bit, and then we're gonna just pump the highlights a little to make that flame glow. Give it some clarity, give it some dehaze, then give it some vibrance, pump down the saturation a little bit. Why I'm pumping down the saturation is because if you just look at the lantern, it is a little bit bluish. Steel can turn out to be blue when you give it contrast, so put down the saturation, put down the blues so it looks actually like steel. So then we go to the hues. Let's make a little bit orange of the reds, make the orange a little bit more orange and the yellows to the orange, and then we're gonna go to greens, make them a little bit yellowish, then go to the yellow, pump that down, pump up the reds a little bit, pump up the orange just a hint. Luminance, yeah, definitely luminance for orange, that's looking good. And then we're gonna straightforward go and give it some vignetting, and after that let's go back up. I'm gonna go and zoom a little bit in, select subject, and after that subject is selected, I am gonna bring the highlights down because it still looks like the lantern is in daylight and the surroundings are not, so that's not a good look. Then I'm gonna take the brush, put the size a little bit smaller, put some feather into it, and then I'm gonna paint out the places where I think the candlelight is hitting on the lantern. Just paint them out like this, then make it a little bit smaller because there are smaller places that I have to get to, like this bar over here. Paint that out, and paint this bar here, and then I'm just straightforward gonna put in some highlights, make it a little bit warmer. Then I'm gonna zoom out, and that is what is looking right now, but I still think it's missing something, so I'm gonna take the linear gradient and I'm gonna just put it onto the ground in this really flat kind of way. Then I'm gonna pump in some highlights, pump in some exposure, put the highlights warmer, And that's it. Give it like this glowy look that it's really lighting the ground where it is. And then on to the last photo. The last photo is from Lars Schipper. Hi Timo, I've sent you this photo for you to edit. Shot it last Saturday when I saw the clouds were hanging low. Hiked up about 800 meters high and then the forest got really moody all of a sudden. Love when this happens. It's my favorite circumstance to photograph in. I really like misty and moody photos too. There was actually one really misty morning on my night shifts just this week, and I got really bummed out because I couldn't go and take photos of it. But it gives you this mysterious look, and that's what I'm gonna go with the edit too. So first we're gonna put down the contrast, put down the exposure, put down the highlights, pump up the shadows so the foreground comes out a little bit, pump down the whites, put in some clarity to bring out those details on the foreground, put in some dehaze, vibrance, put down the saturation a little bit because of those greens yet again. Then I'm gonna mess with the blue because the sky is blue, the whites are a little bit bluish, so we're gonna give those clouds, that mist, everything, this mysterious morning hazy look. I'm gonna go to the saturation, put down the greens, put down the blues. Actually, let's pump the blues. Yeah, that's looking actually much better. Put down magenta and purple. Yeah, that's looking good. Give it some vignetting. Then I'm gonna go to the curves, give it a small J curve just to give it some mood. And that is it. That is looking just a little bit of highlights to bring it out like there's some light behind the mist or the clouds. And it's looking really good. I'm really liking it. Then just crop it up a little bit to make it show like the woods are trying to walk uphill. That's what I thought that this looks like. They're walking against the mist or to the mist. They're going uphill. It's looking kind of nice. And that's it. That is how I edited your photos this time. If you're interested in these kind of videos and you want me to edit your photos, just comment down below, tell me that you want your photos to be edited, and I'm gonna do one or two. I'm gonna do maybe 3 or 4 of these. You never know. And if you want to keep an eye out for videos like this where you can participate in, follow me on Instagram because I'm gonna put these into the stories and the email into Instagram stories where you can send me those photos. And of course I'm gonna probably put it in one of my videos when I just figure out when I'm gonna do it next time. So I hope you liked my edits. If you did, click that like button, subscribe, bell icon, everything like that. And I'll be seeing you on the next one.